So for in today's video, I would just cover over 5 common misconceptions about accounting and bookkeeping. So if you're somebody who's currently studying AAT or ICB or even ATT or one of the other accounting qualifications, then this might help you. So let's talk about my first favourite misconception about accounting and bookkeeping. I don't know what it is, but when you've got a camera in your face, it always feels really awkward when somebody walks past or cycles past. But yeah, the first one is that you've got to be good at maths to do bookkeeping or accounting, which is not really true, because unless you're somebody who's going to go into statistical analysis, for instance, you don't really need to be excellent at maths. You don't have to have an A star in maths or anything like that to do it. And I believe if you've got at least GCSE level C in maths, then you can undertake the AAT diploma. So you definitely don't need to have A's and B's in maths to do accounting and bookkeeping. So one of the main reasons why you don't necessarily need to be that great at maths. So it's not as if these days that you're manually calculating ledgers, because all of that is either on Excel or in a different accounting software package such as Xero, QuickBooks, etc. And whilst you can export things into Excel and do a manual lookup to make sure that everything does add up, you're not just calculating that with the use of a calculator anymore. So things have changed a little bit. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a plane up there. Now, I was about to take this hat off, but I'm going to keep it on because it keeps my hair at bay, so there's so much of it. So, moving on to the common misconception number 2, is that you need to have either a university degree or A-levels to undertake accounting and bookkeeping. So there are other options if you are a student who's currently studying GCSEs, or even if you're at the stage now where you're at college and you've already chosen the A-levels that you want to undertake, for instance, or you're somebody who's had a different career and now you're looking to change and go into bookkeeping or accounting, or even tax for that matter. What you can actually do is study the AAT, which is the Association of Accounts Technicians, the ATT, which is the Association of Tax Technicians, and then the ICB, which is the Institute of Certified Bookkeepers. And you don't need to have A-levels or a university degree to undertake that. But what I say to a lot of people on the channel is that, super heavy this, is that it's best trying to find a provider who will put you through that study, because at least then you can learn on the job at the same time as studying. You don't have to do that, but it just means that you get that work experience under your belt, because a lot of jobs that you see that are even entry-level jobs sometimes require you to have, a year or 2 years of experience. So it's definitely worth going ahead and doing the diplomas with work experience if you can get it. Or even if you can't find a job, if you go on the AAT website, then they usually have a list of training providers which you can contact or look on their website for current vacancies. Or alternatively, you can do some work experience over summer with the likes of PwC, BDO, Deloitte and KPMG, even Mazars and places like that do that now. So that's just another option. Okay, I'm out of breath. So, common misconception number 3 would have to be that once you decide on a path in accounting or bookkeeping, that you have to stick to it. So what I mean by that is somebody who's decided to be a bookkeeper doesn't have to stay just doing bookkeeping. You can then at a later date take on further qualifications in order to become an accountant, for instance, or somebody who's decided that they want to work in tax. Maybe they don't like it after a couple of years. Doesn't mean that they have to stay in tax at all. You can transfer over to another qualification where you might have exemptions towards those qualifications, or alternatively you can move on into a completely different department of finance, such as financial planning, again, tax planning. I think what else? You could work in purchase ledger, sales ledger, you could work in procurement, you could go and work in marketing, which is completely different. But if you've already got those qualifications there with a diploma, for instance, you could have exemptions towards the qualifications that they require you to undertake in order to go into marketing. So never worry if you've made a decision about a certain path and then a couple of years later, or 3 to 5 years later, you decide it's not for you and you want to do something different. That's totally fine and you can change it. So I'm going to fall over here. Look at the ground. Just want to get over to those trees over there. They look really nice and inviting. So the next common misconception that I'd like to bust is that accounting and bookkeeping is boring, or tax is boring. I think if you're doing a very manual aspect of bookkeeping accounting, so just scanning invoices or just typing into an Excel spreadsheet, then yes, that could be quite boring for you. However, I find that the more that you study accounting, finance or tax, the more complex queries and complex analysis you have to do, which is actually really interesting. So you start to, for instance, gain a good understanding of what a business does and how it runs and why you need to plan for things in advance. Whereas when you're studying, for instance, you're told that you need to do these things, you're told you need to prepare an Excel spreadsheet, or you're told that IFRS standards are this way and this is how you need to account for it. The more experience that you gain, the more you get to see these very interesting cases, so these interesting portfolios, interesting industries, interesting businesses, and see how they work. So I think that aspect of it is not always what people see or what they envisage when you think about bookkeeping and accounting. They think of quite a quiet job role, whereas really, for instance, say if you're working in audit, you get to go out to a client's premises and have a look at the stock that they have, see how they manufacture certain goods, see the machinery that they've purchased. So it all becomes quite tangible, which I think is a lot better and a lot more interesting than just, like say, exporting a CSV Excel file and then manipulating that into a set of management accounts. But even that, again, once you understand businesses and you've been exposed to all of that, is quite interesting. So yeah, I hope that helps. And I'm going to cover my very last misconception. So let's bust this one. So I have had quite a few comments on the channel in the past 6 months. Some saying that working as an accountant or bookkeeper pays really well, and others saying that it doesn't pay as well as an engineer or other sort of industries. However, if you are somebody who is currently studying one of the diplomas and you're only 2 years into the industry, then that's going to be the case, because you're obviously not going to be paid as much as somebody who's been in the industry for 10 years and has all of this experience, a portfolio of clients, etc. So yes, initially you'll be paid almost similar to somebody who's doing a diploma in another field. You might not even get paid as much as a mechanic, for instance, who's also undertaking a diploma, or an electrician, because they do in some cases get paid a little bit more, certainly to begin with. But again, the more knowledge that you gain, the more experience that you gain, and the more that you specialise in accounting, finance, audit, tax, whatever it might be, then the more that you're going to earn, because you become an asset to a business, and you can really help them to save money. You can help them to drive a business forward. For instance, if you become a CFO, which is Chief Finance Officer, so you can really make an impact to a business. So I would say that wherever anyone leaves a comment to say that accountants don't get paid that well, I think the more that you put into what you learn, the more you're going to get out. So yeah, I might even leave a link to the video that I posted about how much accountants earn in the description box below, maybe a card up here somewhere. But yeah, I hope this walk has been different and useful to you. As always, if you liked the video, do give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing as always, and I shall catch you on the next video.